Think for a moment about that which is inevitable. You standing before the judgment seat, my judgment seat. Your life has ended, and you are in a courtroom now. I am judging your life. I am your creator. I have that right. What will you say in your favor? What will you tell me about yourself that would say you are completely righteous, completely sinless? What would you say to me that would convince me in all my wisdom about you that I've missed something? That somehow you have been perfect and you should come to heaven to be with me for eternity? No matter your explanation or statements, if you have not believed, if you have not trusted, if you have not called in deep desperation upon my Son Jesus Christ for salvation, I will only have these words for you that you would find in your book of Romans. There is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who understands, no one who seeks God. All have turned away. They have together become worthless. There is no one who does good, not even one. Their throats are open graves. Their tongues practice deceit. The poison of vipers is on their lips. Their mouths are full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Ruin and misery mark their ways, and the way of peace they do not know. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Today, as long as you live, that is my verdict on your life if you haven't believed in my Son. If you haven't trusted in Him. It really comes down to the cross, doesn't it? That should be no surprise. It's the good news. It's the great message. It's the gospel, which is fulfilled on the cross. Think about it. What would the Revolutionary War have been without Yorktown? Or what would the Civil War in your nation have been without Gettysburg? Or what would World War II have been without D-Day? None of these wars would have been victories without these pivotal moments in history. And there would be no salvation, no gospel, no good news, no victory for you without my Son dying on the cross. The cross is your watershed. The cross is your eternal fork in the road. It's your crossroads in life. All that matters in eternity will hinge upon what you say about it, what you believe about it, what you've accepted about it. Let me tell you what the cross has accomplished for you and what happened that day to show I approved of what was done. The cross has been the goal all the time, as I have told you, since long before creation. It was my plan, along in agreement with my Son and the Holy Spirit, to one day have my Son nailed to a cross. That was our plan. Now, to show you that I agreed with that plan, that my Son's mission was defined by the cross, I would have these things remembered on that day, that Friday that you call good. On that Friday, I gave many signs that showed I was in full agreement with what was going on that day, no matter how much it pained me to see my sinless Son perish on that cross. I brought darkness over the land by the same hand and the same voice that created light out of nothing. That same hand, that same voice brought about darkness upon the land. Why do you think I did this? Why was this so important? A part of this whole event going on. And the answer is simple. If you think back to history, the 9th plague in the land of Egypt, during that time when Moses was pleading with the Pharaoh to let my people go, the 9th plague before that 10th plague that in the end was the Passover, the blood on the doorpost, and me passing over every home that by faith placed the blood of the lamb on the doorpost. That darkness came before that final plague, that final judgment. That darkness was to show all of Egypt that my judgment was coming. And so when the darkness came while my Son hung on that cross, The darkness was meant to wake a nation up who should know better. That my hand was in this, that my judgment was coming, and that my firstborn, like the firstborn of Egypt, would die that day as judgment upon sin. The other event that you saw, the other sign, was the cry of my Son on the cross when he said to me, my God, why have you forsaken me?" This was never known by my Son or me. We've always been together, co-eternal, co-powerful deity through and through. And yet in this flesh of the humankind, he was crying out to me as the Father, "Why? Why forsake me?" The reason why is so that he could experience the effects of sin. Every sinner should be crying out if they knew, my God, why are you forsaking me? Why would you separate from me upon my death?" And the answer is because of sin. And my Son had to experience that upon himself for your sake, because sin's that bad. Sin's that utterly repugnant to me. Like the lamb who was led out of Israel on the Day of Atonement and abandoned in the wilderness, I abandoned my Son on the cross, not because of anything he did, but because of humankind and their sin. You also remember the story about the temple and that big curtain that's between the most holy of holies, where my presence was known to be for this nation of my people, and the outer courts that people could enter into all the time, but not in my presence, but once a year, and that with the sacrifice of a lamb. Do you remember that curtain? And on that Friday, I tore that curtain in half from top to bottom, a curtain that was 30 feet high, a curtain that was as wide as your hand, a curtain that was sewn and seamless, that no man could tear. I tore. Why? Because I'm telling you that through my Son, my presence is now open to everybody who believes in what he's done. I tore that curtain because no longer will I reside in temples made by human hands. I will reside in you if you believe in what my Son has done. I've opened up my courtroom to everyone, man, woman, slave and free, black, white, red, yellow, or brown. Anybody who believes can now be assured of my presence in their lives now and forevermore. Why do you think that Roman soldier, that pagan, that non-believer, that crucifier of mankind, why do you think he was able to say, surely this man was the Son of God? Simple. Crucifixion was brutal and it lasted for days. Somebody who's dying on a cross would not die within hours. It would take days. And somebody who was dying on a cross towards the end of that horrible ordeal would not have the strength to scream out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" for others to hear. He was suffocating. His lungs was filled with blood. But my Son screamed out. My Son died within hours of his crucifixion. The darkness had come. The earth was shaking. And the Roman soldier understood, because he has crucified so many men, that this was totally unique, unusual, and supernatural. That's why he could say, this surely was the Son of Man. These signs only demonstrate my presence at this moment in time. My stamp on the day, if you will. It was horrible, but necessary. What my Son accomplished on that day, you must understand, or you will weep for all eternity. You will be in anguish forever.